Hello and welcome to this special edition dedicated to COVID-19 and our community responses to this pandemic. My name is Carol Merton and I have two guests with me today. And before I introduce the guests, I want to say a few words of thank you. First of all, thank you, a most sincere and heartfelt thanks to our Medical Officer of Health, our Public Health Unit staff, our community service providers and the support agencies, our first responders, our hospitals, retirement homes, long-term care facilities, our farmers, our essential frontline staff that include our grocery stores, our pharmacies, our delivery truck drivers, our gas station attendants, and so many others for their prompt action and their ongoing efforts to keep our community safe. We are all together in this exceptional and ever-changing situation, and we are all neighbors doing our best to reach out, to help, and to support each other. Here at Rogers TV, we will be providing you with current information from our community agencies and our elected officials. However, as you're probably already aware, this information changes almost as we speak, certainly hourly or even every day. So we want to encourage you to stay current with the situation by going online to the Public Health Unit website at publichealthgraybruce.on.ca. Listen to the radio, read your daily newspaper, and of course, tune into Rogers TV for current information. So today I am welcoming to the program two guests from the Owen Sound Police Services, Police Chief Craig Ambrose, and also Jason Cranny, who is the Community Safety Officer. And the topic we're going to be discussing today are frauds and scams during COVID-19. So I want to welcome both of you. Thank you so much for being here, Chief Ambrose and Jason. Thank you. This is great.
Thank you.
My pleasure. So I'm going to be turning it over to you. I may have a few questions, but I'm certainly going to turn it over to you. I must say, as we were chatting before the program, I was actually shocked. I went to do a little research so I would have some idea of what's going on in COVID-19. I was amazed at the frauds and scams and I dare I say it, creativity that's going on around this situation. So please provide me with information on how I can recognize as a fraud or a scam and what I should do to protect myself and my family.
Thanks, Carol. So probably the biggest thing is that everybody sees an opportunity, and no matter what the situation is, and a number of the individuals who are involved in these types of frauds and scams are connected to larger organizations, and they see the trepidation and the fear and the unknown in people, and they use that to their benefit. And so certainly scams are on the rise. Locally, I don't think we've seen a lot of reports, but we encourage people to report to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre about any local frauds and scams. So it's difficult to say how many we're actually getting. However, we know that, and from people posting on social media, I know that there are people out there that are getting these, but fortunately some people are aware that they are a scam and they are a fraud. If people put as much effort into these frauds and scams as they did into legitimate employment, certainly we'd have a lot better workforce and a lot better economy, but there are always those trying to look and cheat and make their way and take advantage of other people. The biggest thing I think right now is the fear of the unknown, and certainly the ever-changing, as we were discussing before, the ever-changing legislation and the laws, and I'll take for an example the unemployment insurance benefits and the CERB benefits through the federal government. There's a lot of questions. It's been changing. The delivery method's been changing. So there are people who are taking advantage of that and sending out information on bogus information and trying to get people to answer theirs and provide their banking information and saying they're the federal government. And you have to remember that the federal government is never going to ask you to provide their banking information over the internet through a text message to you or through an email to you. So those are the types of things that we're concerned about, some of the things that we're seeing happening. Jason's on the front line more so in regards to frauds and scams and some of the different types, and I will leave it to him to explain some of the overall ideas and some of the themes behind some of these frauds, but those are the types of things that we see and are very concerned about in the present times.
So the first red flag for me or anyone in the community is if I receive a message and it's asking me for my banking information, that should be a red flag right away that I need to pause.
I think what we want to stress is that whether it's the Health Agency of Canada, whether it's our own public health officials, our hospital, they aren't going to be asking you for credit card and personal information. For the most part, if they are connecting with you, they will have that information on file.
Right.
So if they, there's no reason to actually give out any kind of credit card information, certainly right now over the phone or over the internet, because they won't be asking for it. That's not something they are asking for, and they've made that message quite clear. However, as Chief Ambrose has pointed out, when you get these individuals and they're preying on the fears of many, and there's a lot more scamming going out, or certainly there's a lot more that we're hearing about. And I think it's just partly because there's so many people at home right now. So if you're a scammer and you're going fishing and you want to go see if you can catch somebody, if normally you can try to connect with 100 people, right now you're connecting with into the thousands because people they're scrolling our Facebook, they're scrolling Twitter, Instagram, whatever social media platform they're scrolling. And if you can catch them and get them to stop and possibly click on a link, that's essentially what they're trying to do.
So their market is ready and waiting for them because people are mandated to stay in place. So really the fishing ground there's lots available to them. I hadn't thought of that, but that's true actually. And people are using their technology to fill their time. Yeah.
And that's exactly it. And I think the other thing is preying on people's fears. So knowing that COVID-19 can strike anybody at any particular time. It's one of those, it's like a silent germ, a silent bug. People don't know when they could come in contact with COVID-19. They don't know what the symptoms are actually going to be like for them in particular and how their immune system will react. So you have those individuals who have compromised immune systems. Obviously, we know in our seniors population, our elderly population, that when they get COVID-19, it can become a lot more dangerous for them. So when you are playing on someone's fears, and normally when somebody is more vigilant and they're more aware and they feel confident in saying no to many things, when you can tap into that insecurity, it's funny what people will do. Even after the fact, when they know they've done something wrong, it only takes a click, it only takes a yes, it only takes passing along information once for you to open up yourself to somebody whom you do not know.
So common themes for possible frauds or scams. I know one of the places I looked was the government of Canada has listings of things, but I'm wondering if you could talk about what would be some common themes of people during this situation. What sorts of things? I can certainly go through my list and ask you what you think.
I would say some of the ones that are a little bit more common, or that I've certainly heard about around here, or even through my own social networks, quite frankly, are hydro companies, or I guess it's fraudsters acting as hydro companies, threatening to cut off your hydro if you're not paying your bills. One of the most popular ones is, pretending that you're a company, that you can come and you can actually conduct a COVID test. New testing is now available. It's readily available. Just pass us along your information, and we will come and conduct a test at your house, or you pass on that information with the hope to show up at the hospital and that you can actually get that test done. And really what they're doing is, again, it goes back to that phishing terminology, is that they're phishing for your information. There's no test. Chief Ambrose and I were on the radio just recently, and I can't stress it enough, that the only place that you can actually get these tests are at the hospital, and you actually have to go to the hospital to get these tests. They can't be done anywhere else. No one's going to call you for these tests. So if you do get that call, and people want that information, or they say they're either a private company or they are a different organization conducting those tests. That is a falsehood. That is not happening. In our area, obviously, only our local hospitals can conduct the tests.
So advertising for those tests is really like a black market offering a test that doesn't even exist. And what they're really wanting is your information and hopefully some money from you. So, yeah. Any other scams that you've become aware of in your connections?
Cleaning companies, and of course, I'm not. All of our legit cleaning companies are fine. It's scammers and fraudsters posing as cleaning companies, saying they can come in and clean your ducts so that you don't have the recycled air. Because as we know, a lot of people were getting COVID-19 when they're in travel. So people sometimes become wary. They become afraid. If you're in an apartment complex, as an example, or you're in a condo where you might have the potential for recycled air, a fraudster would say, "Listen, we're going to come in. We're going to clean out your ducts." If you're in a house, a larger house, you might have more people living in there. We're going to clean it out, and we have that will certainly help enhance your chance of not getting COVID-19. So again, they're just creative. They're trying anything that they can to just extract that information.
But certainly they're focused on things that would appeal to the public during a pandemic like the COVID-19. So yeah. Now, I have a few more examples of frauds and scams, but I guess I'm not sure which of you would like to answer this, but how do people get caught? I mean, they're out there, they're doing this. How are they caught, and what's the charge? What's the penalty for this?
So it's really difficult. First off, a lot of them don't even take place. Some of them are obviously local, but many of them, and the issues that we run into in law enforcement is that the people who are conducting these scams have no borders, they have no boundaries. So much as the Canadian Revenue Agency scam that everybody's probably aware of and or should have heard about by now, it's been going on for a number of years. They've done a number of crackdowns overseas in India and other areas where they're actually running the call centers. And so it's really difficult from the law enforcement perspective to try and get those people to justice because it's a long process just to identify where they're taking place, who's doing them, and then you have to have cooperation from the police of jurisdiction. Now, fortunately, they have been getting a fair amount of cooperation because of the impact that it was having nationally across Canada and the value of the losses. There was a lot of pressure put on through the government at the federal level in order to make that enforcement happen, and it did happen over in the other countries. But a lot of the creative fraudsters, that if they're not going that broad, it's really difficult for a small service like our own. If you have a victim here, for us to follow up and use the technology to actually identify where those people are and to reach out and to make the connection, it has to be a pretty significant loss, which is a shame because every loss is significant. Mm-hmm. But it comes down to the cost of enforcing that and looking at making sure whether or not we can justify and whether we can even prove where it comes from. A lot of them will reroute their internet provider so that it bounces all over the world before it actually comes back to them. And every time it adds another layer and another level of bureaucracy to tracing that IP provider and figuring out who's responsible, and you might have to do a number of production orders or judicial authorizations in order to get that information. So it's a difficult process. So that's why the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre coordinates all of this enforcement and all the victimization, so that if there is something that is causing a specific concern like the CRA scam, they can use their federal power to coordinate that investigation.
So it really is important for the public to stay aware of what the scams are, what the current trend is in scams and frauds, and stop it at that source, which is them in front of their computer or their phone or their iPad. That's the first line of defense then, am I right?
Absolutely. That's the most important line of defense is not to be scammed in the first place, not to fall victim in the first place. Any legitimate business, if there's somebody asking you for your information and they need it right away, or they're going to call you back, ask to call them back and make sure you check that number in the first place to see if it's an actual legitimate number, because most of these people will spoof phone numbers. So they will say, we're going to have somebody call you from Owen Sound Police Department, and they can actually make it appear on your call display like the call is coming from the Owen Sound Police Department. And so that doesn't necessarily mean anything, and don't fall victim to that. That's important that you recognize that that's one of the things that they do. They might show up that they're calling from the Canadian Revenue Agency or CRA, but it's not. It's just a display that they're pushing through the circuits. So the important thing is that if it's in fact accurate, if there's something that, if they say that you owe them money, do your own research. And they'll contact you in other ways. They'll contact you by registered mail. They'll contact you in other ways. They're not going to ask for the money directly over the phone. They shouldn't be doing the high pressure. They shouldn't be trying to collect it in that format. So, ask the questions. Don't fall victim to it. Stop and make sure that you understand everything that's going on, and ask and don't fall victim to the high pressure. Make sure that you stop and take your time, and that you control things and that they don't control things.
So what you're really saying is, don't necessarily trust what your screen is showing you, even call display. You take the initiative to call, because it's not necessarily trustworthy when you see it come up on a screen.
No, absolutely. That's one of the biggest things I can't stress enough, is that the call display is not necessarily accurate, and it's not going to provide you with the accurate information. So you want to make sure that you do your homework, and it's a lot better if you make the outgoing call to the individual agency that you're looking to contact and talk to, and they should have all the information about you. They shouldn't be asking you the information about yourself. If it's a legitimate contract and a legitimate company that you have a contract with, they should have all the information that they're asking you. And banks and a lot of and CRA and all of those don't do telemarketing, telephone interactions, don't call you and ask you for information. So as soon as it's anything like that, my advice is to hang up and don't give them any information.
Excellent. So pausing, nothing really needs to be addressed as an emergency on a phone. It's better to pause. So Jason, you had mentioned about links, and I'm wondering if you can talk more about, when people are in front of and something comes up and they might be curious and think, oh, I'll just open that link to see more. How would you know if it's a suspicious link, or what would you suggest so people are careful? Because opening those links actually is a risk.
Well, one of the things you can certainly look for is in the top left-hand corner of any website is a padlock. If there's no padlock up there, it's not a secured link.
Okay, yeah.
So if you just wanted to test it, if you just went on to any government site, you'll notice there'll be a padlock in the top left-hand corner. So that would be a more secured site. So they actually have their own software to secure that site. If there's no padlock up in the top corner, it's kind of an open site actually for public forum. So that would be a red flag. Yeah. The other thing, just kind of building on what Chief Ambrose just said, that the one thing we have right now, because we're not rushing out of our homes to the myriad things that are usually jammed into our schedules, is that we have time. So if you're not sure if that's a legitimate site and you don't want to click that specific link, you can always just minimize minimize your screen and then go online and actually type in the actual website itself and actually see if it actually comes up. Because what it might be that the link that you see doesn't actually link you to what you think you're going to. No different than a phone number is going to pop up, and it could be from Canada Revenue Agency, but realistically, it's just the face of the phone number. It's not the phone number itself. So because we have time, this is the opportunity. There's no rush. There's no rush to provide anything. No one needs your information or your contact information that bad. No one's shutting off your electricity. No one's providing a COVID-19 test. No one is coming to check on you like within minutes. So take your time, take a deep breath, be in charge, and do your own research. If you are unsure, if you get a phone call, just say, no problem. I will be happy to call you back. What is your number? And can I get your name and extension? And I'll give you a call back in a few minutes. I'm busy right now. They won't give it to you. If you're online and you're unsure if it's a secure site, minimize your screen, and then type in what you're actually looking for to see if it actually comes up. And if it does, then you can certainly scroll it and get that information that you want to get right then and there. So there are different ways, but a lot of it is just kind of, I guess, taking a deep breath and doing your own research, and just realizing that nothing is so urgent right now that you actually have to provide information in that split second or click onto that link right now. I mean, time is actually to our advantage. So when it comes to frauds and scams, this is a time that we can actually just sit back and not jump at things and make those mistakes.
So one of the points on the information I looked at was if you're not the one initiating the contact, then you don't have to communicate to the person. And that leads me to the question, more and more people are ordering products online. They're needing groceries, they're needing drugstores. So there's a little bit more of an online presence for people to get their daily needs. What advice can you give around safety when you're ordering things or giving credit card information?
So I think it's, I'm sorry, Jason. I think it's really important and that when you're doing those things to deal with reputable businesses, that's the first thing. Somebody that has a big online presence, somebody that you're well aware of is a legitimate business that's gone and extended that to an online presence now in the new COVID-19 era. I think that's the biggest thing, is to make sure that you have the opportunity to know who you're dealing with. Don't you may get a lot of opportunities to try new products or to talk to new companies, and really now's probably not the time to be doing that type of thing. Stick with what you know and who you know. That's probably the biggest advice. And Jason, you were going to say something as well.
No, I was just to kind of add on to that. Obviously you want to stick to the companies that you know and are most reputable. But I think there's a common theme because we can't go anywhere to support local businesses. So calling local numbers and talking to people that you have seen around town. And let's be honest, at this particular point in time, we need to support those who have supported us for time after time after time. And there are times when they're struggling. So call somebody that you know. If you want to order something online, whether it's a grocery store, call your local grocery store. If you want to eat, call your local restaurant. And connect with those people that you know and that you're familiar with, instead of trying to reach far and wide and you're not sure if who you're reaching with is actually the person that you think you're talking to.
So that's certainly a win-win, supporting local businesses, but also to be able to prevent additional frauds and scams, you deal with the people that you know and that you know are credible. What about charities? I mean, more and more there are requests for money because people are, charities rely on donations and people are not working, maybe not able to donate. How would I know whether a charity is reputable or not reputable when they're asking for money?
I could jump in and then because I just went on and I just did a little bit more reading on this because this question actually came up earlier this week. If you go onto the Anti-Fraud Center website, then they actually have a list. You can actually type in a list of any reputable charity that's actually been registered with the Government of Canada. If it's not registered, it's not a reputable charity. So you can actually find that information out yourself. Again, we got time, do your own research. But secondly, if someone's calling you, let's just say it's the Red Cross, a legitimate charity, and you are not sure about making that donation, again, you can call them back, get their information. You can go online, and the Red Cross, as an example, should have information on their website, basically outlining that they're actually currently running a campaign. So go on their legitimate website, find that information, and then call them back. And then if you feel that you want to donate, then that's great. Sorry to cut you off there, Chief.
No, I think that's great advice, and the same thing, support local and deal with the local charities and local people that people know in the community and that are already involved in our local community, and that's how you're going to get the money directed to the right to where you want it to be.
So one of the other areas is around finances. At this point in time, people are watching the financial market very, very closely. And on the flip side, there are people who may need loans, who just don't have the money to meet their daily expenses. What sorts of scams and frauds should they be careful about, and how would they know how to get reputable information?
I think it's important to deal, again, is to use legitimate sources. And, the people that you're going to read about that you've never heard of, that are going to offer you money and low interest to start, I'd be careful to read the fine print as to where that interest starts to accumulate and after how long, because it might actually be an introductory level interest rate, but you really have to be concerned about how that works moving forward. And the government of Canada is supporting small businesses. The government of Canada is doing work with the banks to look at loan forgiveness or not forgiveness but delay. So those are the types of things that I would be going to reputable lenders and people that big banks and trust companies and things that you would already be dealing with, and looking at those situations and using those types of resources.
One of the areas that people are looking for are medical fixes, things that they can take to protect them by taking, whether it's medication or anything else to protect them against COVID-19. What would you say about ads that say, take this product and you will be safe? This is a new vaccine that you can try and you can swallow it. What would you say?
To the best of my knowledge, we still have access to our medical community. Sometimes it has to be over the phone, or you might be able to do some Skype meetings with your doctor. But if there's something that you want to take, certainly not in the medical field, but I would just strongly suggest that they consult their doctor. And it doesn't matter. It might be that you normally deal with a naturopathic doctor, a medical doctor, even if whatever medical field that you're normally dealing with, that you should consult with somebody who has the background and knowledge before you could take anything. Because to the best of my knowledge right now, and really the best advice that most people are giving is just stay home, stay safe, wash your hands, don't touch your face. And I think just try to be as healthy as you can.
I want to.
Sorry.
That's all right. I can't believe our time has come to an end already. I'm sorry. Did you have 20 seconds, Chief Ambrose?
I was going to say, really, on that whole thing is do your research. Use the Government of Canada website, use the Grey Root Health Unit website, and do your research as to what works, what doesn't work, and what they recommend, because those are the legitimate sources that we use in our own daily run here in the police station as well.
When in doubt, check it out. Thank you both very, very much for being here, and thank you to our viewing audience for tuning in to this special edition of Rogers TV dedicated to COVID-19. Please take care, stay safe, and tune in to Rogers TV for more information. Thank you.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media. This is Rogers TV.
Hey everyone, I'm Christina of Homebodies Fitness. Join me for your at-home fitness routine. Let's all get fit together. Only on Rogers TV, Homebodies Fitness.
With the economic impact of COVID-19 deepening, food banks across Canada are concerned about not having enough food to meet the demand, with many reporting only a